All right, so I didn't mess it up as much as last time.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. It goes 3, 2, 1, and go. So it's really 4. And then, like, if I hold the click down too long, like it turns the video back off. It's a whole thing. But hey, here we are live for Dynasty Saturday Night 5. Once again, coming to you every week at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm Brian, and I'm here with my co-host Josh. Josh, how you doing?
Doing well. I took a nice little break from football to watch the Braves win the NL East. They're going to the playoffs, beat the Mets, which is always good. So I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, yeah. I told you last time we talked that I grew up a Mets fan. I don't really do baseball anymore, but yeah, I was kind of pulling for them just because their fans kind of like deserve it after all this time. But are they gonna make the wild card or?
Yeah, they're still in. They just lost the division lead they had all year in the last 3 days of the season.
Funny how that works out. If you're listening to the audio format, please make sure to pause and subscribe to the Going for Two live podcast feed. Review 5 stars. Mention our show and how much you love it. That'll do us a solid. If you're watching here on the YouTubes, jump on in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But also, while you're here, make sure you subscribe to the Going for Two live YouTube channel and give us a little thumbs up, likey like on the video. So we did early risers last week after about 3 weeks or so of the season, and we said let's make it easy on ourselves and just do fallers next week, right? I don't know that it would have turned out all that much different if we switched them or whatever. One more week for people to fall and that sort of thing. But we're kind of a quarter way through the fantasy season, and we have some data to go on. And it's always a weird thing. I should say weird, but sometimes difficult, right? Because it's a weekly Dynasty podcast, right? So we've got that long-term view. We've got that, whatever 2-3 year window, moving value in the trade market and that sort of thing, right? But we can't ignore what's going on each week and pretend like it's not happening, right? So there's that balance between, taking in the data and acting on it, but not week to week redrafty kind of thing. So I think things that like this that we've been doing, like risers and fallers, and maybe we'll do some value checks or something like that in future episodes is kind of a good way to balance things out, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think the people that I see coming onto my list and radar are guys who are coming in their second and third year. You might have overlooked the rookie season, or they might not have played much, and they're just not performing. So it's kind of important to know what to expect, because then you can kind of gauge where they're actually at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now that they actually get playing time.
Like with the risers, I didn't want to double count, because if I was already higher on somebody, and I only nudged them up a little bit higher on somebody than consensus, that's kind of double counting to kind of call them a riser, because I kind of already had them there. Same thing with the fallers, but maybe I'm too negative, but it was not as hard to find 5 fallers for this week as I had as it was to do 5 risers for last week. So who wants to go first?
I'll go ahead and start off with one of my. When I say I dislike a player, I'm not talking about real life. I'm talking about just for fantasy. Mm-hmm. I have nothing against anybody, but I'm going to start with the one that I've been the most down on and trying to tell people to be hesitant to draft, but he's still one of the most overhyped players that I've seen in a while. It's Gabe Davis. Mm-hmm. I had him around 38, so like a wide receiver 3. I moved him down to 48. I mean, he's just all the problems I had coming in. He's never had over 600 receiving yards in a season. And this year, and even in 2021, he only topped out at 5 receptions a game. He never had more than that, so he's not going to get you volume. He's basically going to be a touchdown or bust. And even this year, he's only had 4 receptions. That's the most he's had in a game. And his touchdown he had was a blown coverage, and he was wide open. Mm-hmm. And so some reasons that I'm kind of down on him, and which he does still have room to improve this, he's not a good route runner. In 2021, he was the 33rd. He was in the 33rd percentile against man, 27th against zone, and 36th against press. So he doesn't do a good job of separating or getting himself open. You kind of got to, in my opinion, you kind of got to wait for some blown coverages or, him just to run deep and somehow get past the guy. And then everyone was saying last year that Emmanuel Sanders was what held him back, but there's really no excuse for that this year. He was the number 2 guy as far as receivers go, and I'd prefer Isaiah McKenzie, at least in redraft, right now over Gabe Davis. Not so much Dynasty, but.
Yeah, Gabe's interesting because I was somebody who was, kind of an early supporter and quote unquote ahead of the market. And then when things got way, up there with the hype, I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, I like him, but like, let's, but also I kind of felt like I didn't want to say anything and chime in and agree because, it's like, because now everybody's sick about hearing about him,
Yeah.
But I also was like, I'm the guy that liked the band 3 albums ago, like you all are posers. But going into this season, I don't think it's difficult for me to say that I was expecting more than I've seen.
I was too, even being a hater on him.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, he's running the most routes on the team, right? He's playing a lot of snaps, like he's out there. He's bound to earn targets at some point. Like you can't have this. I think he's 10.7% as far as targets per route run. And it's got to go up. But like if he's not getting that separation and not getting open, it might not go up, especially when you have a target hog like Diggs to move with. So, I am a little concerned. I haven't really knocked him down yet. I think I got him around like 32. But yeah, I am a little concerned. One thing I'm concerned about is that he's going to turn into, I think when you were kind of alluding to this, like a boomer bust guy, and those, and I hate those guys.
Yep.
I know,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I do too.
They can get you they can win you a week, but damn, it's a wild ride sometimes. Yeah.
It feels worse losing the weeks when they bust as opposed to it does winning the weeks when they boom. Like I'm more upset than I am happy when, or at least that's just me. So
yeah. Actually, while we're on the Bills, real quick, I don't know that we have an update on McKenzie with the concussion. Last I saw, he was limited on Friday, so still questionable. But if he doesn't get out there, Crowder's out, and that what's his face, Kumaro is out. Sneak Khalil Shakir into a couple of DFS GPP lineups. Pittsburgh is bad against the slot, and why not? He's cheap. He's a cheap guy who could have a spike week, and who knows, right?
I just traded last week Tyler Lockett for Shakir and I think 2 23rd picks. So I like that.
Yeah, I just moved Juju for I think it was like Shakir 2/3 and a 4th. And on paper, it doesn't look very good. I was like, listen, this is an undersell. I just want to get it done because I've had a lot of bad luck trading this year. But listen, I like Shakir as a speculative buy, even if it's just for next year. And I don't need him this year in that league. And there's a non-zero chance that Juju ends up just being a high target, low ADOT guy that isn't going to score many touchdowns, and that's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, I almost put him. He was one of the honorable mentions I'd have. Juju Davis.
So let's move to my first faller. I'm going to go with I'll take an L on this one, and that's Jalen Tolbert. I don't know that it's a complete L yet. The jury is still out, but he's a guy who, going into the NFL draft, I liked as a rookie sleeper. I said, listen, if he gets the right landing spot, good draft capital, we could get things going. I looked at him and also, like, I'm no film expert or anything, but I listened to people who know better. And really what we were looking at was he needed to refine some things about his game, be more crisp in the route running. And there were some concentration drops and things like that. So, I mean, a little raw because he went to, I think, what was it, Southern Alabama or something like that, rather than, a big school. So he didn't have the coaching that some of these other wide receivers do. But then the window opened where Gallup was still going to be out for a few weeks. And I was like, okay, well, now we have an opportunity, to shine a little bit, and maybe, flash and carve out a role and that sort of thing. But hasn't been happening. He was actually a healthy scratch for the first couple games. While there was no Gallup, he was still a healthy scratch. And that was concerning. He played 1 week and then was inactive again in week 4. And that's concerning. And, Noah Brown's getting more run than he is, right? So I'm definitely not, out on him yet. So he's a rookie. Rookies do better in the second half of the season, and there's room to grow. Devontae Adams, I'm not comparing the two, but he just off the top of my head, it's a well-known story of not being great as a rookie and growing, and that could still be there. But yeah, I dropped him from the early 40s to 55, and actually down a tier. I'm hopeful still for later in the season and long term, but yeah, definitely what I'm seeing is concerning. And with some of these guys, I was looking on the DLF Trade Finder to see okay, has there been a drop in their market value and that sort of thing. And really, he's only showing up as a throw-in in bigger deals that have 7, 8 players in, or whatever, 5 players in them. So yeah, there's just really nothing to love. Yeah.
Yeah, that I like that, but I still think because he is a rookie that you still do have some time for that. But you put him right to where I have him. I have him, I think 58.
Yeah.
So maybe you never hope for injuries, but maybe he's just one injury away from getting a chance to prove himself. But I mean, Noah Brown looks good though. So I mean, and Gallup already scored a touchdown, so he might just have to wait till next year and just stash him.
Yeah, yeah. He's actually, I think he's tied for second in my most rostered players. So yeah, but we're not going to talk about that. I just reviewed the percentages today, and it does not look good. So while we're on the Cowboys, Zeke, I shouldn't say everybody. Some people were telling us, listen, folks, it was the knee last year. Zeke will be fine, especially in redraft. Nothing. I mean, 2022 has been pretty ugly. I dropped him down to, let me see here. I had him in the late 20s, and I see a lot of people still having him floating around there. He was in the mid 20s, 25, something like that for me.
Yeah, that's a consensus for going for 2 at least.
I got him down at 31 and totally willing to keep going lower, right? It's just when I drop, I usually do it incrementally, okay, all right, you're still not, and then I keep dropping, So he's at the bottom of a tier. So yeah, I mean, Zeke is. I'm not gonna say a guy's washed, because whatever. I'm 44, sitting on my couch watching football. Who cares, right? Washed. The guy's 27, but I think he is what he is now. I think he's a mid-level RB2, nothing to get excited about. You don't want him on. He's a hot potato as far as Dynasty goes. He's gonna probably. I hate when people say die on your roster because it's just so morbid. But he's probably gonna just retire on your roster, and because no one wants to be stuck holding him when that cliff hits. So yeah.
I mean, also the offensive line is just not really playing that well for the Cowboys, at least for run blocking. So I don't think he solely relied on that, but that was definitely one of their strong suits in his heyday. Was they had 4 or 5 really good offensive linemen at all times, and they just don't really have that anymore. But I actually moved him down a little bit to 31 also. That's where I have him. And I have Pollard ahead of him now, which I think Pollard's better, but the Cowboys don't. So that's the only reason I hesitated. But now I have Pollard ahead just because.
I moved Pollard down too. I guess we can maybe talk about that some other time. But
yeah.
But well, I mean, real quick for me, I expected a lot more out of Pollard, and I think a lot of us knew that he would never be the one, right? Even when Zeke moved on, if they re-signed Pollard, there'd be another lead back type guy, and Pollard would remain sort of a change of pace pass catcher. and that sort of thing. But he's not even really doing that much. And it's just like, I just don't see so much to like, in the backfield there. And so, yeah, I think I got Pollard down at like 38 now, something like that. So,
yeah, no, that's understandable. I thought they would lean on. I thought those two would boost up with Cooper Rush coming in, but they really haven't. So,
who's your next person?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump to one that people on Twitter talk about, make memes out of, make fun of. It's Russell Wilson. I moved him down from 12 to 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's only 6 spots, but in quarterbacks, that's pretty substantial. I basically bumped a bunch of, which I'll get into after. I bumped a bunch of younger guys ahead of him. So he's 22nd in QBR, 20th in quarterback rating. He only has 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And that's, like, depending on your team, that's not that bad, but he has weapons to throw to. We have Judy, who you'll talk about, Sutton. He had 2 really good running backs, a decent tight end. So, you expect those to be a little bit better than that, especially given his pedigree and the weapons around him. He's only 15th in points per game for fantasy. And the main reason I moved him down, he's 33. He doesn't really have near as much mobility as he used to. And at around 15 points per game, I'd much rather have a young quarterback who can put up similar numbers, but I have the chance of him improving and having a higher ceiling. So because of that, I bumped him down to 18 because he's not even at that age. He's not at this point a win now quarterback that can go out there and get you 20 points a game like Aaron Rodgers and Brady can.
Sure. Yeah. And they're kind of stuck with his contract. Like the first 2 years were low, but then it's going to like get a lot higher and he's going to be 35 by then. So it doesn't really look good. A lot of concerns with the coaching too. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The reason I haven't bumped him down yet is I already kind of had him floating between like 12 and 15 anyway. And it's like, for me to move him down, he'd have to go below, like, say, Lance and Fields and mix in with like Stafford and Carr and Cousins. So what do you have Lance and Fields ahead of him now? Like, or not?
Yeah, I haven't moved Lance and Fields down too much. I think a lot of the stuff with Justin Fields is scheme, and they just do not seem to want to give him weapons to throw to. And Lance, he got hurt. So I'm not moving him too much yet. But I did. I moved up Zach Wilson ahead of him, Mac Jones, Deshaun Watson, and Stafford right there behind him. I like Mac Jones. He's trying to learn a new system as a young quarterback. Like his rookie year, he showed flashes of not elite accuracy, but definitely like top 10 accuracy in the league. And with the right coaching staff, he could be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, right? But like, I'm just not there yet. I mean, for me, Mac Jones is all floor, no ceiling, and Zach Wilson is all ceiling, no floor. And if I'm looking at things, say in a 2-year window or something like that, I think I feel much safer with Russ. But I mean, like, I get the argument. Yeah, I'm just
I've got him right there where you typically in Superflex, especially Dynasty, he's your Superflex spot or your second QB. And at that point, I'd rather either, like, in Scott Fishbowl, I went with floor with Mac Jones, but in a Dynasty league, I might try and go with ceiling for that, and then wait a little bit and get like another older player like Tannehill, Matt Ryan, someone like that. I can plug in if. So I'm just kind of out on Russ at this point. I
got you. Yeah. It's one of those things. For me, I move them down slow. I can't. It's hard for me to go. Okay, you're here, and now boom, you're here. It's like, okay, I got you here. Let me see. Okay, you're still not. And so I would imagine, so if Twitter was all over that ugly game with the Colts, right? Like, people were ripping on him and missing wide open receive, like not just like missing like with a throw, but missing seeing them and that sort of thing. But then a lot of people are pointing to coaching, right? No Javonte. It was a Thursday game, short week. Like, how much of it is Russ and how much of it is he's stuck in a bad environment there?
I think it's probably, I'd say 60% coaching and environment, 40% him, because, he did miss some throws. He might not be completely comfortable with the offense yet, but with someone that's like 33 years old and been in the league, you kind of hope for him to pick up on it a little quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And he also, the biggest thing for me, he lost his mobility to get out of the pocket, and he can still roll out, but he don't have that scramble ability, or at least doesn't seem to be. Maybe they don't want him to run, but he just lost that, and that was a big part of like extending drives. That way you're not just doing 3 and outs. He could scramble, get 7 yards on a 3rd and 7. He just doesn't seem to do that anymore. But I would put more on the coaching.
Yeah, I have concerns there, which kind of I might as well segue now into Jerry Judy being a faller for me. Got a lot of crap for this from my co-host on Dynasty Fever. Obviously I'm not out on Judy. I like the player. He's got a great skill set. He runs very good routes, right? It hasn't turned into targets. And that means something. I think Gabe Davis, he might not be earning targets, but Judy, it's just a matter of like, he's not getting them because as my co-host was saying, he watches things like this a lot closer than I do. Like Judy's beating people, but Russ isn't throwing to him, right? And so so for me, it's like, okay, there is something to, well, that's bound to change, law of averages. But I also am concerned that just like he loves Sutton, and he's got that relationship with him, and I don't see anything that says A, that's going to change, or B, Russ is going to start to explode and have these huge games that we've seen him have in Seattle. So I got no reason to love the offense. I got no reason to love the coaching. As we just said, the quarterback is losing some shine. So he dropped from like, again, not big, like the late 20s to like 33 for me, but into a lower tier. Now a turnaround is definitely possible, right? I'm not saying, fade Judy, sell Judy. Judy's awful, right? But I just can't justify putting him ahead of some of the guys that he was like formerly on top of. I just can't do that at the moment, right? So I'm going to run through a couple trades from the DLF Trade Finder for you. Okay. So September 28th, I wanted to pull one that was a good bit old. That's like 10 days old, right? Judy at a 24 third for a 24 first.
I'll take the Judy side on that one just for the upside potential with him.
Same, right? October 4th, a little closer, right? Judy and a 23 second for Goff and a 23 third. So what you're saying there essentially is that Goff is better than Judy or higher value than Judy.
Yeah. I mean, Goff has looked really good this year. Mm-hmm. He's still got a few years left in sinks. He's not that old, but I still would take this chance on Judy, I think.
I think, even a super flex, I think probably Judy in a second, unless I really needed a quarterback.
I was going to say, if you had like, say, Tua and Dak as your 2 quarterbacks and your other one is like Baker Mayfield or something, I might go do that just so you can, you know what I mean? So if you're desperate,
All right. So October 6th, which was the day of the game. So we don't know if this was done before a game or at night after. Judy straight up for Goddard.
Tight end premium, I'm taking Goddard.
I was thinking the same. Like that's where you're starting to inch toward like, okay, tight end premium, I'm willing to, take a guy like Goddard then, because wide receiver is really deep, and tight end is ugly. So,
and he gets insane like yards per catch, yards after catch. He's really good at. I was listening to the CBS podcast and Jacob Gibbs was on there, and he was talking about how out of like, I can't remember the exact, but out of like 15 throws in the red zone, 11 targets went to AJ Brown. So I think that could spread out to Goddard and some other people. So, and if that does, he's going to skyrocket. Yeah. So I'd take Goddard probably.
Yeah, people forget how athletic Goddard is. But I got him ahead of Hawkinson now. Like All right, who's next for you?
All right, so I'm gonna jump on. and do Cam Akers.
Mm.
I only drafted one out of 20, I think 18 leagues. I only drafted Cam Akers in 2 of them. I regret doing it in both of them because I was kind of down on him. I had him at 26, moved him to 32. So I didn't move him down a lot, mainly because of his age. But his 3.1 yards per carry ranks 48th in the league. The Rams' offensive line does not look good. They're not given any time for Matt Ryan to throw or any room to run. He looks sluggish coming off the injury. And in a committee getting no passing work, I'm basically out on him just for this year, and I'll reevaluate because he's only got 2 receptions on 3 targets. And he's losing work to Darrell Henderson, who I'm not that high on either. I just think he's just average for NFL. And I don't think I'll bump him down much more than that because I am going to bank on a bounce back in 2023. But he might just not have been able to heal from that injury, and he might not be the same. There is always that possibility.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially juxtaposing his recovery and coming back with that of James Robinson, who also had an Achilles, but we're not seeing this happen. And so I think we are in, we're starting to know more about like ACLs, and how they're not a death knell for a career, but the first year you're back might be a little iffy, right? I don't know that we're there with that much data, if you will, on this Achilles stuff, right? Because, we've never really seen running backs come back from one. I mean, Marlon Mack comes to mind, and
Dante Foreman is another one, I think, but he's still RB2 on a team, so he's not like that. I will say on James Robinson, I don't have the numbers on me because we weren't talking directly about him, but his production and like his metrics are starting to go down a little bit. I don't know if that's people just more aware of him, stacking the box more. Yeah, that will be something to monitor if there's like fatigue or if it might just be like a worse injury than we thought for the Achilles as opposed to an ACL.
Yeah, well, it's also, I think, he's one of those guys where he's at the point in my rankings where it's like it's kind of like game script and matchup are going to determine him, how he does. You would think going into the year that Jacksonville is going to have to throw a lot. Lawrence has looked good, but the team's doing okay. And like for example, this week I think they're playing the Texans, right? So. Do we really expect them to have to throw a lot in that game? I would think so, right? So it should be a J-Rob day, and I don't know. Like if I'm a defense, okay, fine, I try to stop that. But the minute you put like 8 guys, in the box, I'm just tossing it to Christian Kirk anyway. So I don't know. It may open things up for him. Yeah. But I'm not an OC for sure. So with Akers, again, he's one of those like I'm dropping him slowly. What's the number that you have him at?
I have him at 32, and
wow.
I mean, he's losing out in redraft rankings. I would probably have Darrell Henderson higher, and that's just ugly to me. You know what I mean? Like that just. Yeah. But I'm like I said, I'm not going to move him down any further than what I have him right now because I'm just going to wait and see. But that's just basically when I look at my rankings, if I'm drafting or like giving advice, just avoid it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still have him at like 17. So for me, it's a thing of I'm slow to creep you up. I'm slow to creep you down. I'm slow to be convinced. I'm slow to lose faith. Right. So and like the next few guys below him, like AJ Dillon. I like AJ Dillon, the player. They might keep Aaron Jones around, right? Yeah. Aaron Rodgers might retire next week if he's whatever, gets pissy and like his ponytail isn't, his man bun isn't, like. Yeah. So it's a little. I think there's a little bit of concern there. J-Rob, we just talked about. Still, something to watch. Elijah Mitchell, still out, and who knows anymore with him? How confident you are in him in a 2-year window? And I'm just naming guys that are right below Akers: Monty, CEH, Etienne, Aaron Jones. I get it, there's really not much to like from what you're seeing from Akers so far coming back from the Achilles. But I don't know that any of those guys are that much more convincing to be on top of him. But that's just me. Yeah.
See, the people I have above him, like ranked higher than him, is Zeke, Miles Sanders, and Montgomery, and then Pollard. I would much rather have those, especially if I'm drafting in Dynasty over Cam Akers right now. But him and Gabe Davis are two of the people that if I see some improvement, I'll definitely move them up. But Cam Akers in space just doesn't look like he's able to make people miss. He's not breaking tackles, so I'm just assuming he's not 100% healthy.
So my third faller, we should have had like a free falling, like a drop for that. Jeff, get on that, please. So let's see. I'm gonna go with another small L for me. Actually, wait. You know what? We were talking about Akers. I'm just gonna segue into another Ram. I know we don't want to like talk Rams football all night, but let's talk about Matt Stafford. Right. I think even when he was successful in LA, I was saying to folks like, I don't think he has as many good years left as you think he does. And I think people were kind of, over the moon, over their skis with him, and the shine started coming off later in the season last year. The back started telling us that like, it may be a thing that pops up once in a while. He has a bad offensive line. He's quarterback 46 through 4 weeks. He's got a very good completion percentage. It's like 70.7 or something like that, but everything's short right now. Everything might be short because he has, he's under pressure and he's got no protection, but like, do we all of a sudden think the offensive line is supposed to get, much better? And then you look at it, there's not much running game, as we just talked about with Akers and Henderson. The team has sold a lot of their picks. So when you think about what the future is going to look like for adding offensive line or weapons for him,
he's scraping up veterans that nobody else wants.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's kind of like a double counting thing. I kind of already had him at like 12 or 13 below where some people had him, and he's down to 15 for me. And he's now in a tier with Carr and Cousins. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to put him at 17 and put him as the third person in that tier. Like that's not, it's not out of the question. And lost in all this, I haven't even said the guy is 34 years old. Yeah. Right. So
with an elbow injury and his throwing arm, that seems to be chronic. So.
Oh yeah, I even since we hadn't heard about it in a while, I thought maybe that was just like a thing that was whatever. But yeah.
I think it's like an annoyance that he can play through, and it doesn't affect his ability, but he probably just puts up with, and it's probably sore. So that's my guess.
A couple trades, a long one ago, September 24th, Devontae Adams and a 24 fourth for Elijah Moore and a 24 first.
Yeah, I'm smashing the first and Elijah Moore on that one.
See, to me, that is a totally dependent on what my team is. If I'm a contender, I'm totally taking the Stafford side on September 24th, and if I'm not, then I'm taking the Elijah side. Closer, a couple days ago, Stafford and Marvin Jones for Pierre Strong and Rashad Bateman.
I like Bateman more than both of the players, so I'd probably take that side. Unless I'm like absolutely win now and I need those players, but Marvin Jones isn't even really – he's the third right now, the third option behind Zay Jones.
Yeah. So and to me, like the difference between those two trades and is like how the mighty have fallen. Like that's – I mean, and these are all super flex, by the way, right? So, I mean, if you're – I mean, that's Stafford's value a couple days ago.
Well, I can say this in a 14-team – this is redraft, but in a 14-team league, I waited to draft quarterback, and I was like, well, I'll take a shot on Stafford. Someone dropped Trevor Lawrence week 1. I picked him up, and I've started him since. So it's I don't like having two quarterbacks, but I am still holding hope that they can somehow right the ship and, get better. But I benched him for Trevor Lawrence in redraft.
And just real quick, another faller that we wanted to note is A-Rob. A lot of people were, buying up some A-Rob, saying, change the scenery, get out of Bearsville and Matt Nagy and all that. I was like, I don't see it, and it's not materializing. I don't know. Like, if he gets better protection, is he going to target Allen Robinson more? I just, so he's down in like the 50s for me now.
No, I'm with you. I thought it would be better, but I never got him outside of a wide receiver 3. And I traded him in one of my Dynasty leagues for Elijah Moore and a 24 third. So it's, people had him up as like in their top 20s. Some people did. I don't know. He had like a few really good years, but it's just, I don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a Nagy problem anymore.
Right. Yeah. So who's your next person?
I'm going to go with, this is a small L on my part. I was probably too high on him, Chase Edmonds. I had him at 26. I moved him down to 38. I'm realizing that coming into the year, I thought he would be the main guy in Miami. I didn't have much faith in Mostert, either A, staying healthy or, just being better, but he has been. And his usage is dropping each week. Started out 63% in week 1. Now it's up to 28% in week 4. So it's trending the wrong direction. He does have 30 touchdowns. So I think all his fantasy value is just leaning on touchdowns and red zone work. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that stays up or stays the way it was. And then over the last 3 games, he's only averaged 6.5 touches and 29 yards per game. So if he doesn't get a touchdown, he's a huge bust. And people were drafting him inside the top 8 rounds, I think, probably. Yeah. So it's just, I'm just going to leave him down at 38.
Yeah, I was willing to listen, make the case for him being useful in Miami. And I think I had him in like maybe the early 30s, like 30 or 31. But I think I got him down to like 43 now at the bottom of a tier. And yeah, I just have so little interest at this point in him. He's got receiving chops. He's still only 26. Although, people say that's, that you're getting there for a running back, but that's a whole other episode. But when we think about it from a dynasty standpoint, right, we're asking ourselves, how is this going to play out moving forward? Do we see something changing in the near future for these guys, their value going up or something turning around? And I have no reason to believe that as long as Mostert is competent as an early down back, and as long as they've got Hill and Waddle to throw to, that anything's going to get much better for Edmonds.
See, kind of like we mentioned for Tony Pollard, I just see him kind of always being a change of pace back. If this wasn't his year, like to be the main back in his own scheme offense, which he was supposed to be the best at, then I just don't think it's going to happen. And I'm kind of afraid if Mostert gets hurt, Sony Michel, if he's healthy, is just going to jump right into that role, and it's just
he's not on. Sony Michel's on the Chargers still, isn't he?
Who am I thinking of? They have another one. I might just be completely wrong.
Oh,
I thought they had a third option there.
Gaskin?
No, besides him, I'll look it up. I might be thinking of somebody else.
Michel started the year on the Dolphins, but I think
that might be what I'm thinking of. You're right. He is a Charger.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I don't. Without injuries, I don't see him taking over, being the main guy.
Someone was asking me about like spending fab on Latavius Murray the other day, and I was answering the question as if he was a saint, because I didn't get the ping, the news that he was on the Broncos. So, I mean, sometimes it's hard to keep track. These veteran running backs just pop all around from team to team. Yeah. So our friend Julia checking in as usual. Our weekly guest riding along with us. Always appreciate you. Good to see you.
Always.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'm up now, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Edmonds' former teammate, James Conner, right? Going into this year, we knew that the TD rate, the TD efficiency wouldn't repeat, right?
Yeah.
And when you take that away, what's left? Not seeing much, right? You don't have much. He's volume and TD dependent, right? He's inefficient with what he gets, which is why he's volume dependent. He has some pretty good receiving numbers this year. I think it's like 13 for 95 and a touchdown or something like that. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
But there's also coaching concerns. There's also he's been banged up and his age. I was willing to kind of listen and have him in the late 20s, around that Zeke range going into the season. I've got him down to 37 at a bottom, one tier lower, and at a bottom of that tier. Because when I look at the Cardinals, I look at a team where I think, okay, what has to happen really for Connor to shine, right? Positive game script, right? Good offensive line, right? And when you have then a team where we're not seeing much of either, because their defense is well, especially the game script, their defense is bad, right? When you have a running quarterback like Kyler, right? The things are adding up where I don't see good news for Connor in the next year or so. So he's a faller for me. What say you?
No, I'm with you. I was too high on him coming into the year just because I thought that even though there would be regression with the touchdowns, I thought he would still be. I'll just say I thought the Cardinals would be better on offense, and when they're not as good on offense, he's not going to be as good. I thought that he'd have a lot more red zone opportunities, and he's only averaging 3.2 yards a carry compared to Benjamin's 5, and they're using him more in the passing work too now. Benjamin, so I need to drop him a little bit more than I have, but I have him I think right around 30. So,
all right, October 4th, Connor straight up for Dalton Schultz. Now the thing about the Trade Finder is it doesn't have a checkbox for tight end premium. So
even then, I'm kind of out on Schultz. I still would probably take James Conner just because running backs aren't there, and he is for now still the guy. But
out on Schultz.
Yeah, I've never been that high on him.
I mean, he's not going to be tight end 3 like he was last year, but still out on him.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in the teens, but people had him in the top 10, and I just didn't really see that.
I got him at 9, I think, right now. Yeah, just because I thought he would get, I guess, more targets than he's gotten. But he was banged up too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
we'll see. That didn't have anything to do with it. I just thought, with Gallup and honestly Tolbert, I just thought his production would drop.
But then again, tight end's like a wasteland, right? So, when I think about the guys that are right below him, I don't know, like Komet and Njoku and a couple other guys, Irv Smith, and right,
I think I don't even have Njoku higher, but I could see the argument. I have him higher than all those, but I do like Njoku. I was high on him coming into the season.
I like him, right? But it's But in that bunch of that I have, and then a tier of 9 to 12 or 8 to 12, it's can you tell me that week to week Njoku is going to be a consistent performer compared to Schultz?
No,
I don't really know, right? I can't say that right now. Lockett and Connor. This is October 5th, one day later. This is a doozy. Lockett and Connor for Rojo, a 23 third and a 24 fourth.
I mean, if you're absolutely rebuilding and just trying to get rid of your older assets, I guess you take the picks. But Rojo does absolutely nothing for me. So you're basically trading those two for picks.
He's a healthy scratch. To me, that's a huge stinker. And whoever got the Rojo side, sorry if you're listening.
Yeah, especially 24 picks. Like I said, I'd especially Lockett, how good he's doing. Mm-hmm.
Connor straight up for Alec Pierce.
That depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to accrue young guys, Alec Pierce. But if you're trying to win, James Conner.
Yeah. Connor for Jacoby Myers.
I'm taking Jacoby Myers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which leads me to Julia's question. That I'm lower on Mac Jones and wondering which aspect of his game. It's not so much that there's an aspect of his game that I hate. He's a competent quarterback, that is accurate. But he's pretty vanilla, right? To me, he's all floor, no ceiling. I can plug him in and he's going to be a steady QB2. I can put him in my super flex spot, whatever. But no rushing chops. no, I don't think he has a big ceiling to grow. I think he is what he is, and that's what we're gonna get. And he's competent, but I have no reason to put him ahead of Cousins or Carr or even Stafford yet. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Mac. Yeah. All right, who is your next guy?
So I think this should be the last guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I saved the other Bronco for last. This Albert O.
Mm-hmm.
I have him down.
We are 15. Picking on the Broncos tonight.
We are. I mean, it's hard not to if you watch the games, but I have him down from 15 to 21, so not a huge drop.
Right.
But most of that's because I thought he'd be the tight end 1, and then Dulcich. How do you pronounce that?
I think it's Dulcich. Yeah.
Dulcich. I thought he might be like the tight end 2. They might compete, but he's hurt. And because he's hurt, he's not even beating out Eric Saubert for the top tight end spot.
Yeah.
Saubert has 220 snaps to Alberto's 118.
Yep.
The targets and receptions are similar, but Saubert still has more yards and has a touchdown. And that's, even though he's still fairly young, that's still very alarming that he's, when Dulcich comes back, I think he's going to be 3rd on the depth chart because I think he'll step in as either the 1 or the 2 because I think he's better. But the offense has not been good. Russ is not looking towards the tight ends. And if anything, like him bumping down moves Dulcich up.
Yeah. With Albert O, it was interesting because we liked a few things that we saw, kind of athletic and, had made a few nice plays in his cameos. We knew that Russ likes to throw to tight ends. And then this, right? Andrew Beck, I believe, was rolled out in the first game, and Eric Saubert, right? So I think when I look at this, I think similar thing to Judy. Russ isn't looking his way, right? Bad coaching, a lackluster offense, and unlike Judy, though, like competition coming off the IR soon. So yeah, I kind of really took a dip on Albert O. He's all the way down at 29 for me. He went from like 17 to like 29. I just have no faith that there in the short term in the near future he's gonna turn things around. And with tight end 1, it's pretty volatile, right? So this may change, right? But 2, when you get below a certain like spot in the rankings, it's kind of redrafty because you might as well slot this person in as your tight end 2, especially if you're trying to win. So I don't see enough reason anymore to have faith.
Yep.
And so that has affected his ranking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm trying to move a couple shares here and there while I can, see if people are still on that bandwagon, and it's been tough.
Yeah, I only have him in a team I took over. I didn't draft any of them. It's not that I didn't want him. When he went, I just wasn't looking for tight ends there. So I luckily don't have that issue too bad.
Mm-hmm. Like right now, if I was say, I don't know, even a 2-year window, if we're thinking some of these tight ends are older, right? I'm taking Tunyon. I'm taking Higbee. I'm taking Logan Thomas, right? I might start to drop Jelani Woods a bit. I mean, I knew he was raw, but they're loving Mo Alley Cox still. I got Bellinger ahead of him, right? I got Hunter Henry still ahead of him. Like, I'm just kind of lost faith. Speaking of tight ends that have lost their shine and dipped, this is also an L for me, and that's Adam Troutman. Didn't have a super athletic profile, right? We knew that. But I remember hearing an analyst say, yeah, but when Sean Payton spends a 3rd-round pick on a tight end, we need to pay attention, right? And we saw flashes, right? And it's still only his 3rd year, but it's just not happening. I stashed him. I bought him cheap here and there. Waiting for that breakout, waiting for, return on investment, so to speak. And like I said, he's flashed, but he's already seemingly eclipsed by Juwan Johnson. He last week, I think, was the first time he outsnapped Juwan Johnson, but that didn't mean much because Juwan Johnson was getting the targets. I think Winston, likes to throw the ball deeper than Breeze did. So I think that transition is not good for him. And Winston, as much as, it's a bad QB for him, he's not probably going to be there next year. And so we don't know, so there's quarterback uncertainty. He may not be a thing ever. This may just be one of those things where we liked it and it didn't work out. Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene were third-round picks, right? And people liked them and were making the case for watch these guys. They spent third round on them. Where are they, right? And so Troutman went from 26-ish to 40, and toward the bottom of the tier that he's in for me. And I couldn't even find really any trades for him on the trade finder. September 30th. Who's buying him, right?
I think they're just dropping him at this point, right?
Yeah. September 30th was the last one I could find. Troutman and a 23 second for Baker.
I mean, I'd almost rather have the 23 second over Baker anyways.
Right? So it's like
Troutman's just an add-on, yeah.
It's give me the side with the second. They're both turds.
Yeah.
Right, but give me the side
especially
with the
23 pick. You could get someone pretty good for that, actually.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. I mean, the hit rate, especially as you get down to the mid-second, whatever. But remember, it's also currency, right? Mm-hmm. So, you can use it in trades too. So that just about we each did 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That does it for our early fallers. So any sort of final thoughts, sort of overall picture, things you learned tonight or things that stand out to you?
The main thing I learned was I might be a little too reactionary with the rankings. I like to move people down as I see it as opposed to let it sit. And that's just me being impatient. But I do stay on top of them. So if I do see it, I will always adjust. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the main thing I learned. With a lot of this receipt stuff going around on Twitter, I haven't really had too many horrible takes yet. So it wasn't terribly hard to find followers. Mainly a few guys I was low on, older guys that I thought would be better, and they're just done.
So let's talk about that real quick. I blocked them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not because I don't want to be on there. Right. I've been accountable about my L's. In fact, what I wanted to pitch to you after this episode is that we do a whole week next week on L's. Right. And so I'm totally okay with that. It's the principle. It's the creation of something simply to go after people in what is supposed to be a fun hobby that very few of these people are paid for, and people get things wrong all the time. It's part of what happens, right? Yeah. I'm more concerned, did you have a bad process than did you have bad results, right? Are there people that they've highlighted who I think are ones that I tend to shy away from? Yeah, maybe. But that's not the point. The point is that this is a full-on troll negativity nonsense. We're all just kind of having fun, and we all know that we can't predict the future, and we all get things wrong, right? Even a good bettor, who in sports betting comes out on top, is winning what, 51 to 60% of their bets or something.
Let's say 60% tops, probably.
They're losing a lot. Come on, folks. Let's be real about this. I'm not one of those PD positive fart rainbows, everybody's got to love each other thing. But there's got to be a reason for critique and negativity, and this ain't it.
It also just kind of reeked of jealousy and toxicity. It's like, yeah, I pointed out when people were wrong on stuff that they were diehard on it. You know, we had it back and forth, but there's a way to go about doing that. And it did seem very targeted towards certain people, and that's why it felt like it was jealousy. People that had maybe more followers, a better job in the space. It's just a huge red flag doing it like that, making a whole account just to shit on people when they were wrong. You know?
Yeah. And when I replied to somebody who was like, you know, we should block them, and I said essentially what I said to you is I blocked them, but I'm a nobody. Nobody cares what I get wrong, but you know, it was the principle, right? Like what was really disappointing was that two people like chimed in like with real negative trolling towards me, like, you know, so like what that tells me is like there's a market out there for this. Like there's people who soak up this like calling people out stuff, right? Even when people do it like in a milder way, like so-and-so truthers are quiet now. I never really was down with that either, right? Because, you know, next week I'm one of those people who is, you know, right? So like everything about it is just cringy and bad vibes, and I just don't like it. Yeah.
Well, I think it just highlights the toxic side of Twitter and the fantasy Twitter, because it was made in October 2022. We're 8 days in. It's already got 3,500 followers. So I mean, it's like,
yeah,
there are people out there looking just for other people to fail that are. That's why jealousy was a big thing about it. You know what I mean?
So Julia is tapping into your Atlanta fandom here. Huge game this week, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Do you foresee a close game or Tampa Bay taking a 2-game losing streak and run away with a 10-plus point victory, etc.? What do you think? What's your thoughts on this game?
So being a division game, it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to go Tampa Bay winning 35 to 20, 28, maybe 20 something, or it's going to go Tampa Bay winning 35 to like 9. I don't expect the Falcons could win. They've played close games in almost all their games, but the fact that they do run the ball so much, and that's the strength of Tampa Bay's defense. You know, they could pull off an upset, but I'm not looking for it. I'm going to be busy tomorrow anyway, so I'm not going to watch the game, but I'm not expecting too much from it, to be honest, especially not using Kyle Pitts very well.
Look at you with your Mike Goods, Mr. Georgia. Yeah, a lot of Brady and Godwin popular in cash games for DFS this week because of their cost and their matchup. And just to let you know, take a guess, Josh. The other day, what Tampa Bay's implied total was?
For the whole game or for their side?
For their side, like their team implied total.
It's probably going to way too, probably like 20 something.
28.3. Sound familiar?
Oh no! You had to do that to me. You had to do that to me right before we get off air.
Yeah,
I don't think that's coincidence. There's a conspiracy out there to troll on the Falcons any chance you get.
Listen, I don't want to troll. I wanted them to win that so badly. Like, you know,
if you do that, you open yourself up for people to make fun of you. So
I'm on record as a Tom Brady hater, as a person, as a man, as a person. Not so much as a player.
We have like a minute left. They're getting a divorce apparently. So,
let's do some wild speculation about Tom Brady and his divorce. And I don't know. Whatever.
I think Aaron Rodgers moves in.
Oh God!
Sort of real QB controversy.
Yeah, I think you saw the tweet that I retweeted. Throw Rogan as a nickname for Aaron Rodgers.
I meant to bring it up, Darren, but I could not remember it exactly, and I didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah,
but that's really funny.
He is the worst. What a
he's a jabroni. That's the word I use for people like that.
Yeah, jabroni for sure.
Julie had one more question. I think Algiers the guy over Huntley. I just want to answer that before we hopped off.
Oh yeah.
I think it's gonna be a 1A, 1B.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I was thinking the other day, like redraft waivers are like oh maybe let's see if we can get some Mike Boone or some what Isaiah McKenzie, right? Dynasty waivers are like let's go into my couch and get some quarters for Caleb Huntley and Avery Williams.
Yep.
And by the way, tight end for the Bills, Quentin Morris. I kind of like him. Like Knox is out this week. I'm not saying he's going to have a big week, but I want to see if he gets an opportunity, like do they even bother to target him when they have so many other choices? But they do have other folks banged up, so yeah, that'll be interesting.
Also, Cade Otton too, since it's a dynasty, should be getting the start for Tampa Bay this week. So I'm playing him in some DFS lineups already.
Yeah, Kate, I did too. Cade Otton was my number 3 tight end coming into the draft, and they basically have told Kyle Rudolph you don't exist, and breaks out. So yeah. And a game where they have a high implied total, like if you want a cheap piece of that 28 implied total, look at us. We're turning it into a DFS.
Well, Deion Jones is. I haven't seen him play yet. If he is, he's not completely healthy, and they don't have someone to really cover tight ends that well. So
yeah. All right. Well, that just about does it for us, folks. Please make sure if you're listening to audio on the Going for Two Live podcast network that you subscribe, rate, and review. If you're watching here on the YouTubes, please take a second and subscribe to the channel and give us a little thumbs up on the video. Time for plugs. Josh, where can they find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find me at Rotonaut on Twitter. I usually have a weekly article out, but I'm not doing it this week for some things going on in my personal life, but I will have that for next week. Weekly rankings, dynasty rankings, all that good stuff at goingfor2.com.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at ffjunkie_, dynasty rankings, goingfor2.com, as well as the occasional article there. And not much in season. I'm more of an off season writer. But my magnum opus of the 10 Commandments of dynasty trading is up there. And you can also catch me on Dynasty Fever. It's audio only. We record Wednesday. Episodes drop on Thursday. And you can follow that show at Dynasty Fever Pod. Please make sure that you follow the Going for Two fam on the tweeters. Going for Two. And also, was it going _42? Going for _2? Shit, I should have checked. and Going for Two live as well. We have a podcast for you every day of the week, Sunday morning pregame, and then every night of the week we've got shows for you, including a doubleheader here on Saturday night. So in a few minutes on this very YouTube channel, you're going to be able to see Cover Zero, our IDP podcast. So if you're down with IDP, then watch some Cover Zero. It's pre-recorded though, so don't ask them any questions because they're not going to answer. Actually, I think Jordan said they're going to try to like watch when it's on and like answer questions that are in the chat, anyway. Yeah. So, but
I do have one more quick one real quick.
Yeah. Sure.
Tomorrow at noon, I will be on the Going for Two Live, the pregame show. So I'll be on there at noon tomorrow.
Nice. I think I'm doing the 23rd. Yeah. So we'll see. All right, but things always come up though. I always got things to do. So all right, folks, thank you so much for spending your time with us, whether it's on the YouTubes here live or on the audio version of Going for Two Live podcast feed. That's a wrap. Thanks for being with us.